week, another Lakers losing streak, and many other things we're going to discuss this week. We're not going to talk Lakers. We talked offline. We'll discuss that another time. So this week we're going to break it down. I'm your co-host Brian, and this is Ravi. Ravi, what do you have to say to the people just as starting off? Anything new?
Let's get into it. I think the people want to hear Bulls-Raptors.
Bulls-Raptors, man. That's the big game of the week. The boys from TNT came across the border. The Arahants, the T-Dot, the Six.
T-Dot. You know what? It was very reminiscent of, I think, in 2000 after the All-Star game when NBC came up here for that Sunday game against Phoenix.
Right.
When Vince dropped 51. I mean, it's you had that electricity around the game.
Yeah, for sure.
On Thursday night.
Yeah, it did. It had a little buzz to it. No doubt. I think the buzz. I mean, I'll start with the Raptors side. I'll start from the Raptors side of things. I think they got too juiced up for it. I think they played well the first half. No two ways. They played pretty well, but the defense, the interior side. A few takeaways I got from it is probably 3, maybe 4 takeaways. Take 4 quick takeaways. 1, Valanciunas, man, the defense got to get better, dude. The defense got to get better. And it's not just the Bulls game. Now, true, he came back and probably played the best game of the season on Saturday against Utah. But overall, it's been a pretty rough start for Valanciunas. 2, in this case here, DeRozan has to stop getting in the habit of trying to look for a foul instead of looking for a shot. And there's a difference between the two. Mm-hmm. When he comes around that curl in this case and he gets around the elbow extended and he has a choice either pull up or go straight to the rim, he usually pulls up and then hopes a guy will bite on a pump fake. And, scouting reports are quick, man. They're on to that. They ain't doing that anymore. And so usually he ends up kicking it back out in this case, and it kills the play.
Well, I think, we even saw that a couple of times with Lowry coming out late in the game.
Yeah.
Where he wasn't really necessarily looking to make that basket or make the play. He was looking for that foul.
Right.
And I think as a young team coming up, and the Raptors don't have that type of player just yet that'll get that type of respect in those types of situations just yet. It's coming. Mm-hmm. It's coming, but... I totally agree with your point there. You got to look to make the play, finish the play,
right?
And make contact and force them to blow the whistle. Don't go in there looking for the whistle, but not necessarily trying to finish off the play.
Right. Third point, I think in this case here, and it kind of plays off of number 2. The Raptors got to stop worrying about the foul situation. I mean, in this case, for the most part, the Raptors get a lot of calls. I mean, I hear Raptor fans about to jump off the deep end on Friday. I'm like, chill out, man. There's one game first thing on 82. You're still tied in the conference. It's only 2 weeks old. Calm it down, first thing. Second thing is, Raptors fans there's times we can say you got jobs and some calls, but the Raptors get a lot of reputation from the league. Okay, there's a stat I saw the other day. I can't remember who posted it. So I want to give credit is due, but they had the top 15 or 10 free throw attempts, I think, in the league. And I think DeRozan and Lowry were in the top 15. So
in terms of a tandem in the backcourt, they're up there.
Just players, period, in the league. They were in the top 15. So stop the whining about that. And I think the Raptors in this case got to get used to it. When you're playing Chicago, they play old school, like 90s old school.
Yeah.
So the calls you expect to get against Utah or Sacramento or even say the Spurs to some extent, Chicago don't play that way, guys. They're mugging you from day one. They're daring the referees, please call me if you can. Yeah. And for the most part, they're going to get away with it. Heck, as a Pistons fan, I know that philosophy pretty well. So when you go in the game, your mindset better change from thinking this is a regular season game with everybody else, because it is not with Chicago. It plainly is not. I can't even think of another team that you could simulate that with. Maybe Memphis. I don't think Memphis is as physical as Chicago in that sense. But it'll be an interesting test when they play Memphis. And the last point is Casey. Holy cow, dude, make the adjustments a little quicker. Holy smokes, man. You might want to put a trap a little earlier in the game. You might want to match up a little bit with the bigs. This dude's waiting till 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter to make adjustments. This is the same thing we complain about in the playoffs. So that's my points. I'm done. I'm done.
I just think that these are the type of games that they're going to learn from. Obviously, it's early in the season, but just the points that you made with regards to looking to finish a play, as opposed to going in there looking for the foul, worrying about the foul situation, making certain coaching adjustments. These are the things that you have to, in order to make that next step, you have to use the regular season to iron these things out. the postseason gets there and the games really start counting.
Right.
You know, the play of Vasquez obviously didn't help the situation.
Gosh, yeah. I never forget him.
Yeah, so that didn't help the situation on Thursday night as well.
He was gassed up.
Yeah, I mean Ross as well in that game. He had some moments, especially late when he fouled. I think it was Heinrich on that three.
Oh, that dude, man. I mean,
so there's some inconsistencies there, and it's like you said with Jonas. There's from game to game you see that inconsistency, and I really think that the Raptors are. I haven't really put much thought into it just yet, but I think they're one solid another big away from really making that next step.
They need a big time four in this case when it's all said and done.
And off the top of my head, I'm kind of looking towards Atlanta.
Really?
And I'm looking towards Atlanta, and I'm looking at Millsap, and I'm looking at Horford.
Oh, I was going down to Indiana.
Oh well,
I was looking for a Mr. West.
Hey,
excuse me, Mr. West.
That works too. But just off the top of my head, I was looking down at in the ATL, and I think Horford. I think either him or Millsap. I think you could slot those two in. Either or. But it's, and again, West is not a bad choice either.
Yeah.
But I really think they're one. Throughout the season, there's one big move.
Yeah, they one big man, and I think to your point, I'm not as big as Millsap as Horford because I think Millsap's a little too undersized for what they're looking for. Millsap is a much more refined, Amir Johnson from a physical. He can flat out score. There's no two ways about that. Not saying Millsap and Amir Johnson the same thing. Just how a body type. In this case here, like if you're gonna make the change, then make the change. In this case here, I think they need a rugged four.
Yeah,
that could go in there. And the other thing too is, the thing is with Millsap and to some extent Horford, more so with Millsap, they're going to demand the ball more, which kind of throw off your whole offense. You kind of have a pecking order already set up in this case here.
Yeah,
where it looks like slowly JV's moving to the third, scorer type of thing. So you get a guy there who could be the third scorer, which is fine if he takes over JV. But a guy at Millsap is not going to be any third scorer. I'll tell you that right now. So that ain't happening. Horford might be willing to play that role a little bit more. So
very true, very true. Like again, it's just off the top of my head. Those are the two that kind of came to mind. But you got to look at all those things too. In terms of who's going to demand shot selections. Mm-hmm. How that will be distributed if you do make a move.
Exactly.
But it's something we here at the crossover will keep keep a close eye on as the season progresses.
Oh, by the way, U.S. media, comment down here. I know you can't wait to talk about the Raptors as being pretenders. The gap what I saw from Thursday night is not that big, to be quite honest with you. And people have talked about Chicago's this. I don't know if they think it's the '90s Chicago team they're talking about, because this Chicago team doesn't squat yet. They're talking about Chicago as if it's like the Spurs or something. Calm it down again.
Yeah,
I ain't got no fear of Chicago, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I've been listening to some of the some of the other shows out there, and they really the Raptors not getting that respect that I think they deserve at all whatsoever. So
Raptors played bad in the third quarter you can play, and they were down 5 in this case with about a minute and a half left.
Exactly.
What did they say about Chicago? And speaking of Chicago, segue to them. Overall, Gasol looked like retro. That was Gasol Memphis. That wasn't Gasol Laker Gasol. That was Memphis Gasol going out there.
And that was Gasol going baseline, going right, going left, dunking on Garnett back in Memphis, back in those days.
Oh yeah, he was laughing it up out there for a while there. But it was interesting to see when games got tight in the fourth, he was nowhere to be found. That cannot sit well with any professional as good as Gasol.
Well, especially the game that he was having.
Right. He was at 27 or something.
Just a side note, Mike D'Antoni, that's the guy that you can find any way to use him in LA.
Oh well, let's not go down the D'Antoni years. He shouldn't even get a job again in the NBA. But knowing the NBA in this case here, he's got enough friends. He'll probably find some sucker in this case. But yeah, I mean, Gasol looked fantastic. He's giving all the moves, the post moves he's ever for, left, right shoulder, sweeping hooks. I mean, you're seeing everything on the repertoire.
Man, I thought Bill Walton's head was gonna explode because the big man, throw it down, big man,
throw it down. Big man coming back in style on Thursday night, man. It was nice to see, though. Even he had turnaround fadeaway at one point. I was like, okay, I'm about to just drop. I'm about to drop my food. It's like it's done.
It was classic back to the basket big man play. Turn, face up, get a jumper, or he's quick enough to drive by. The other team's four. So.
Yeah. That's for sure. That was a positive. I think overall, Chicago's offense has come a long way. I like what I saw from their offense overall. They could cause some difficulties for you on offense. Jimmy Butler looking smooth, plays within himself. I always like his game, and he's coming along nicely. I must admit, sometimes you forget, especially a week like this, the last week or so, about Rose and all the controversy. We'll get to him in a second. But overall, just taking him as a player, you forget how explosive he is. He looks different than every player on the court in the league when you watch him play. Like, how he moves is like watching a video game when he moves. Like, how he could get the hoop is it's like springs. Like, when he's going, and he was going. It's like, when he's got like a bit of daylight. Holy cow, you forget how quick he can be, man.
And he finds the seams. He definitely finds the seams in the defense, and he has the first step to get there.
Yeah.
But he's great when he's on the court.
Yeah,
which leads us into the injury.
Well, yeah, I would make one other point too. One other thing I think that was very disturbing from a Bulls standpoint. Dudes, have you never figured out how to break a trap before? Holy cow! And don't tell me when Rose got hurt, because he had twirled the ball a couple times before he got hurt. Like, I was hoping he'd stay on the court because he had no clue what to do. Yeah, so the Raptors better keep that in their back pocket. You might want to use that another time, man, because, wow. I don't know why teams don't do it more, and the Raptors seem quite effective doing it. They did it in Brooklyn to get back in Game 7. They did it here, and Chicago didn't have any sort of answer for it. But going in the Rose, man, I'll tee you up on this one, man. Playing a fantastic game, then the hamstring. And
it's unfortunate. When the play happened, it didn't look as, it really looked like nothing, to be quite honest.
Dude, you gotta get rid of the shoes, man.
And you really got to start looking at the shoes. At some point, it's like something you're doing, because we were speaking that night during the game,
right?
And one of the comments I made was if you look at the stuff that he's playing with, his legs are wrapped up. Right. You don't see any legs. All you see are sleeves, knee braces, ankle braces. Right. There's nothing else he can put on his leg.
Right.
He's like the bionic man out there.
It's true.
And you're still getting hurt.
Exactly.
But I think, last week I really went in on Rose a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other party that we're not really speaking about, you really got to look at Chicago's medical staff or their training staff.
You think?
Because they misdiagnosed Luol Deng last year or year before.
Yeah, that dude almost died there on the table.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can't keep Rose on the court. There's something at some point. There's something in his preparation.
He had some issues with Noah too, right? Noah's always hurt with something, and they can't seem to keep him healthy either.
It's that, and even the stuff that we don't see in terms of their practices. Right. We know how Thib runs these guys. He played these guys 40 minutes, 42 minutes during the game.
Right.
But to me, based on things that I've read and that some of the information that's I've seen is he's kind of along the lines of Riley when it comes to practices, where he goes hard with these guys in practices. And you really have to start looking at, some of the, I guess if you want to call it peripheral stuff, that affects these guys on the court. Because I just really don't understand a player of Rose's caliber, and it seems like he cannot stay on the court for, a good stretch of games.
Exactly. And I think that's where you got to wonder in the debate going on here between coach and the management, because maybe management's wondering the same thing too. Like, what the heck's going on down here? And I think we talked about early on in the season, we had, I think our preview was like, okay, we're going to give you the players now. Let me see what you do with them. So we're going to find out. And I think the thing is, to your point, I always view athletes in this case, especially when it comes to their legs, but overall the athlete's body, it's like a tire thread. You only have so much mileage with it, and once you use that mileage up, you can't get it back. So if you're running dudes in practice, if you're playing dudes 40 minutes, that's mileage just adding up. And at some point, it's going to give. And I think with this team here, that's the reason why I don't even fear Chicago that much in this case here. I mean, I'm not losing sleep because you know and I know that when it's all said and done, they're going to end up being a patchwork team sometime in May or April trying to get in the playoffs or trying to rest guys in this case because they're all banged up. It's like the MASH ward when it's all said and done. We both know that.
Yeah.
Two of their stars at least are going to be patched up here hanging on for dear life with tape and cord and everything else. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. It's it's interesting. I definitely monitor Chicago moving forward as the season progresses because these guys, it's. I'm just trying to think of another team off the top of my head that has been hit this hard with injuries.
Because Heinrich's injuries were in Chicago. He went to Atlanta for a bit, right? I don't remember him being that hurt in Atlanta.
Exactly.
In Chicago, he seemed to be hurt all the time.
Yeah. It's you really got to start looking at the medical staff, and there's some other shows out there too where they kind of they kind of brought that to the forefront.
Yeah.
And if for some people who thinks each NBA team it's pretty much a cookie cutter medical staff, or it's not the situation. No. It's not the case
ask
at all.
Grant Hill that, okay?
Ask Grant Hill in Phoenix. Yeah. Ask Shaq when he was in Phoenix. Shaq went to Phoenix and he was an all-star that season.
Yeah, Phoenix. Yeah, I thought Detroit did with that Grant Hill. How did that work out?
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, you definitely. You got to look at this stuff. All this stuff. It plays a part coming down the stretch.
For real. All right, we'll wrap that up, and so once again, Bulls-Raptors gonna be fun to see how it plays out in the East with them, the Raptors, Cleveland. We'll see if maybe Washington gets in the mix, but we'll leave it here for the moment. This week in the NBA, we got a big story dropped right in our lap earlier this week. NBAPA executive, union executive Michele Roberts dropped some bombs in a Pablo Torre, I believe, article on ESPN. I'll put the link down there below for you guys to check it out. She says some interesting and provocative things to say about the NBA and kind of like attacking some sacred cows, which I like in this case here, because I'm of the opinion why things need to be the same. When you built certain rules, that was fine. It made sense at the time in 1981 when the league was in a lot of trouble. Why should we just make the assumption those same rules must be in place now, in 2014? And I thought it was I thought it was a good position for her to start off at. I'm just not taking what you say as the assumption. So let me just read a few of the things she said for folks that that didn't hear what she had to say about the league. So she says here, let's see here. Here she is. This is an interesting one talking about, how the structure is set up in the NBA. She says, I don't know of any space other than the world of sports where there's this notion that we will artificially deflate what someone's able to make. Just because, she said, talking about salary cap, a collectively bargained policy that in its current form has constrained team spending in the NBA since 1984-85. She says, goes on and says, quote, it's incredibly un-American. My DNA is offended by it. Close quote. By the way, I love that DNA is offended by it line. That's one for the ages. So, I don't know. So, that's just one of many different comments she has to say about the salary cap. Talking about, there's another part I think she mentions about owners and talking about, crying poor a little bit, which I kind of agree with that one. Because for the longest time, owners keep crying poor, players keep giving up more and more. And these owners are always crying poor about something else. There's no owner could come to me or any player or any fan tell me in 2016 or 2017 when this contract comes and says oh geez, we're crying poor. 10 teams are under the red. If you're in the red, that means you need to get fired. Okay, because in this league, where you're making $24 billion or whatever you're making this thing, you're raising ticket prices all the time. You got a cap in this case in place. There's no way that you should have any issues. Jersey sales are going through the roof. They're making money out in China. There's no way in this case you should not be making money at this point. Money's coming down off of trees right now in the NBA, man. I don't know. You tell me, man. Am I missing something here?
Well, when I read the article, the thing I liked is the fact that, she's not someone that's historically been in the league or associated with the league. Right. So it's a fresh perspective. Mm-hmm. On the whole collective bargaining agreement. Mm-hmm. I think she's coming at it with, if you want to say it, a certain sense of...
you know what she's doing? I think what you're about to say. You tell me if I'm wrong. she's using the fact that I think she's using this to her advantage that she's not an NBA insider, using the quote unquote naivety to say, oh
That's
me,
exactly
I
what I was
don't
gonna
understand why you have to do this, me, playing ignorance, but knows what she's doing when she's doing it, because obviously she's a brilliant woman, so she ain't no fool, so she
Yeah.
knows that she's playing that kind of role. Like, I'm just looking at this wide-eyed. I don't know why you have to have a cat.
And that's exactly where I was going with it. But I think some of the things that she's saying are it's definitely worth looking at. In terms of, especially with the salary cap. I totally agree. I don't think there's a reason. There's no salary cap on what the owners make. So why is there salary cap on what the players are making?
I think exactly. Oh, that's one of the things she did say, by the way, folks. She said in this case you could replace 30 owners and put 30 new ones in, and no one really pretty much give a damn in this case. While the players make the game.
That particular point is I disagreed with that point because I think you can replace the 30 owners. The players are the players. The players are the product, and that's who people are coming to see. So no argument on that point, but. I think in terms of, you think you can just take one owner, switch him out with somebody else, and the team will run as efficiently as it would. I don't agree with that
But
part.
that's not the point I don't think she's making. The point she's saying is that if you swap in with a new owner, me, the paying fan in this case here, in this case, will it have any substantial difference as far as me viewing a basketball game?
I think it will. I will look at my team. I look at the Lakers.
Right.
Now, they switched ownerships because unfortunately Dr. Bus passed away, and now you obviously have his son and his daughter running the team, and tell me that hasn't affected.
No, ownership has an impact from the standpoint of how your business is run. No one's not doubting that. What I'm saying is when you're looking to buy a ticket, or you're saying, well, you know what, Junior's not running the team now, I'm not going to go watch a Laker game tonight. No, it's Kobe Bryant is why you're watching the game. That's the reason why.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing that part. But
that's the point. I think the point she's saying is that.
I think that a certain, that's misrepresented to a certain extent. If that's the point that she's trying to make.
At least that's why it came out of it.
Yeah, no one's buying a ticket thinking about who the owner is, but depending on who the owner is, it affects the product on the court, which will affect me possibly buying a ticket.
True, but in this case here, if you take your example in this case, and you have 30 owners, and you say you're replacing 30 other ones, likely will come back the same average. 10 will be really great, 10 will be mediocre, and 10 will be lousy. Now it might be the different 10. Lakers might stink this 10. Charlotte might be the best 10. It might be part of the 10 that might be great. Or Sacramento in this case, and who knows? All of a sudden, the Bulls are lousy. So it just shake up and just scramble the same 30, but you're still gonna have the same breakdown. It's all said and done. Now, is another LeBron James running around the place next time anytime soon? Not likely. So that's the point. I think at least I gather what she's trying to say in this case. Not so much in this case do ownership affect it. No, but in this case, if you put 30 new owners in this case, Golden State might be worse next time you bring in a new owner, and someone else might be better in this case here. Be it the Knicks, God forbid. Sorry, I'm going to take the cheap shot.
I'm a little bit, of a different opinion there. I think it's real easy to say, different ownership won't, it's interchangeable to a certain extent. But that part I don't necessarily agree with. I think one of the other points she made, from what I recall in the article, is, I think she mentioned shortening the season. Less games. Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting point to me because here you have, she wants the players to be making more, but working less.
Mm. Well, she's representing their interest in this case.
I don't, whether you want the opposite. What's that?
Owners want the opposite. So owners want them to make less, but play more games.
You see, and that's the part. When it comes on the ownership side, that's the part I have a problem with. Me personally, my take on it is that I think the basketball related income should be a 50-50 split.
I think it should lean more player to me, but fair enough.
Yeah, I would keep it. I would push for a 50-50. I think the owners, obviously in the last one, the last CBA agreement, they were obviously pushing for the players to take less. I don't think the players should be making less. I don't think the owners should be making less because one of the things she also said was, I'd like to see some of these owners go and play 50 games or 48 games. But you can flip that, and you can say, I'd like to see some of these players. You can take whoever and run the business end for 50 games or
Well,
40
isn't that
games,
kind of starting to happen now?
um,
Jordan's already got a team. You heard this week Garnett's thinking about the Timberwolves ownership. So in 10 years, that might be the case. A few of them might be owning some teams.
it might be the case, but I mean, like,
Magic.
I'm talking for like in terms of like right now. So she's saying, like, I'm just playing off her point.
Yeah.
She'd like, like, I'd like to see some of these players, sorry, some of the owners, out there playing some of these games.
But there is a point. But to her point, there is. It's a specialized skill. If you got the money in this case to be an owner, you can go and hire people to delegate to do what you need to do. You don't necessarily have any specialized skill to be an NBA owner. What special skill you need to be an NBA owner?
I think I mean,
you don't need special skill. Some come from oil, some come from tech, some are just rich dudes. They don't make a difference.
I think you still need a certain type of business acumen to surround you, even if you're not coming like if you're a billionaire guy and you just want to buy a team for the sake of buying a team and owning a team, you still have to have the right people around you and have a certain type of business acumen to put the correct people. I mean, you would think Jordan of all people. I mean, Michael Jordan is the Michael Jordan of bad owners.
Well,
I mean, which is the ironic thing.
Exactly.
But I mean, he surrounded you would think him of all people would surround himself with the right team or know who to surround himself with. And from what we've read, he surrounded himself at first with a bunch of yes men.
Right.
So it's not simply just putting.
Okay, but hold on one second. To your point, though, Jordan's one example in this case here, but we got a bunch of them. We just talked about New York. Let me start with Dolan. So, like, and there's a whole bunch of them. Our buddy down in Cleveland, he just happened to get lucky in this case of our a couple of ping pong balls. He didn't do nothing special. What did he do special? And then we start with Phoenix. Give me a break. Like, I take the 10 top players in this case that could probably buy a team when they're done. They're retired. LeBron, Carmelo, Kobe. I'll take their 10 in their resumes and say, you know what, own a team. I bet you their winning percentage will be better than some of the jokers they got running teams here. Take what knuckles we got in this city. I'll take them any day of the week. Any day of the week. I'll take that bet on with you any day. Well, please, bet me. Please.
We'll talk offline.
Yes. I would love in this case to get the 10 top dudes in this case here. Garnett, whoever's got that type of cash. And let them run team and see.
For me, the major thing that I have a disagreement with is the fact that one side is more important than the other to a certain extent. I think there's a lot of talk. If the players aren't happy with the agreement, if the players aren't happy with things are in the league, why don't the players form their own league?
I heard you talk about Tate on first Tate.
And I don't think they have the infrastructure to do so.
At the moment. Now, that's at the moment. But let's put it this way. If things keep going the way they're going, history shows someone will be out there to make a team. And it may not be the players. It might be someone like how Donald Trump was the USFL. So you know what, buddies? All it takes to get like 7, 8 dudes. And if you can do that in football, and the USFL was a pretty good league, and they're picking people off like top players in NFL and top players coming out of college. And if the USL can do that, and think about it, that's like a 50-man roster. In the NBA, all you need is about 2 dudes in this case per team. We already saw with the ABA how that happened. So in today's world, could you get 12 teams in the league and do so? If they could do it in 1970-something, yeah, they could do it in this day and age. Don't be fooled. They could do it.
Well, I think it's definitely a lot on the back end. There's a lot of dirty work. That it's not just, right now the players are just used to being the face of the league, and they don't have to do the dirty work that comes with running a multi-billion-dollar league. And a lot of these guys like to talk about, building their brand and doing all this stuff, which is great. And I mean, it benefits them. It's more exposure to the league, But when it comes down to it, if the players didn't have that platform, there'd be no platform for them to build that brand.
Yeah, but in this case here, that's true. But here's the thing. This is where I hear this argument all the time. But if you're LeBron James coming out of high school, your brand's already being built. If you're the phenom and you're the chosen one, and that draft happens today, and there's a competing league and says, you know what, we're going to take him, which happened in the ABA as well too. And say, we're going to take him. At that point, your brand's already being built. in this case here. They took Dr. J in this case at the time, which essentially was kind of LeBron James was that time. You know, a few other top dudes like that, and Pistol Pete. But they could just go out and take LeBron James at that point if they're a competing league. LeBron James at that point don't need any sort of platform. His platform's already being built already at 17.
I disagree. I think the as good as LeBron is when he came out of high school, I mean, I've never seen anything like the NBA marketing machine to build these guys up. Yeah. And when it comes to any of the major sport leagues, whether it's football, hockey, baseball, when it comes to to marketing and marketing their players,
I agree.
I don't think the NBA is second to none in my opinion.
But here's the part that I think you put things in context. If a league had to get formed today to compete with the NBA, they could take all the NBA juice and cachet of what they've done for basketball and just start picking top players out from there. They could just leverage the NBA brand already. You want to come see LeBron play? Here's where he is. He's in our league. You want to come see where Phoenix come up from college? He's coming to our league. Basketball's already ingrained in sports already, across from China to here in Toronto. In this case here, it don't matter in this case at this point, So the NBA, their great marketing will actually backfire, I think, on them. Because it's like, heck, I just got leverage off of them. You guys already created the environment for me to create stars already.
But I think, you got to look at some of the back end things too, and some of the relationships that the NBA has built over the last 50 some odd years. Okay, especially with networks and things like that too.
So your network theory. I don't want to put holes in. But I'm going to take a few shots here. You have more networks than you ever had before. This ain't 1980 when there's three networks. Everybody love a network. Let me tell you something. They have a second league that could get a couple stars. NBC will be licking their chops. Barbecue chicken and then some on top of that, okay? Please.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. They want content. And the one thing that gives you content that can get people's eyeballs on TV is sports. They will pay a king's ransom to get that league started out. Well, even just a few players. NBC, Fox Sports, whoever it may be. They all want in, especially in the NBA. Good Lord, it's probably the second most valuable property after the NFL. If you get a second league that can get a few of the top stars and a couple of the top stars coming from college, oh my gosh.
I still don't think it'll compete with the NBA's machine. I think they're too established, and they're way too ingrained. Even as from a branding perspective, that NBA brand has a certain cachet to it. It's almost, if I can make the analogy of, we look at WWE. They pretty much have a monopoly on the wrestling, the wrestling landscape. Right. And you have a few offshoot organizations here and there. Right. And when you look at that product, it's not the same as watching that polished WWE product.
No, but you see, you're telling me now, but WCW was able to run for decades going up against WWE with their own broadcasting network, in this case of TNT or in the case of TBS. It was just Southern. And they found a way to build up a thing to rival WWE. So it was possible that you have two.
You see, but it was possible back then. I think where the NBA is now compared to where WWE was, in the mid-90s, the NBA is in a much better position, obviously. Yeah. So I think for a league, even if you have a couple of the top stars from the league right now, if they were to go play in an offshoot league, I think people would tune in, obviously, for the interest factor. It's new. And, you would see a spike in ratings initially. But I think overall, it'll come back to the NBA. But I think the point I'm trying to get across is that both parties need each other.
Yes, true.
Both parties need each other. So, the owners, you can't be greedy. You can't expect these guys. These guys are the product.
Well, I think the owners have a lack of respect for the players. That's my thing. I think some of these new owners, not the old school owners that you see, San Antonio's owner and some of the old school dudes, they gotta know how they're doing their thing. Yeah. These new school guys coming in that want to be part celebrity, they got everything figured out because they run some fantasy leagues with their rich friends and stuff like that. They know more ball than anybody else. Kind of the analytics thing works in that too. Don't get me wrong, I love some analytics too, but you know what? There's some things that are just nuanced things you just gotta know about the game that is not analytics driven as well too. But it comes with that type of mentality, that kind of superiority mindset a little bit. I know more than these guys type of thing. Where you get these guys want to be celebrities. I think the part that happened with Golden State. You see these things where guys want to be little mini celebrities. In this case, because it's ownership. You see even Ballmer. He's so happy. He can't wait. He's been on TV more in the last month. He's been his entire career.
Yeah, I think with the Ballmer thing, Ballmer's been a bit excessive. Just my personal opinion. I think when it comes to owners, we have certain owners that we're used to seeing, over the years. Obviously, Cuban being one of the most visible guys, and identifiable guys. But I'm kind of old school with it because I think owners. I shouldn't even know what the owner looks like.
I'm kind of with you on that one. I think at that point we'll wrap it up there. But I totally agree with you. More anonymous, the better, as far as I'm concerned, to some extent.
Exactly.
I don't know if we're ever gonna get back those days, man, but we'll see. Hey, Ravi, man, where can the people find you, man? As usual on Twitter.
You guys can find me at Mr. Ravi_Porvita.
And you can find me at Beyond Locker Room, short form RM, man. And as usual, subscribe above, comments below. And Ravi was always a great show, and can't wait to do it next week, man.
We'll catch you guys next week.
All right, peace.
Peace.